All the pretty girls stand up. All the pretty boys stand up.
Pretty boys in the building.
Sway. This right here is my sway. Sway. All the girls are on me. Damn. Everybody pay attention. This right here is my pretty boy sway.
Soldier.
Get out the way. Pretty boy coming through.
They say if you stare into the abyss stares back at you. Well, I've been looking for a long time, and I feel its eyes all around me. We live in strange times. Fact has been blurred with fiction. And in this city of madness, seeing doesn't always mean believing. It means questioning. I like it that way. Questioning people's intentions. Questioning one's surroundings. And sometimes, questioning your own sanity. Let the abyss stare back at me. I want it that way. I need to be seen. Because truth isn't something you find. It's something that finds you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. Happy Tuesday to you all. Hope you're having a great time in wherever you are in comic book collecting land. We got a great show tonight. A very, very special guest, part of the Pressable Defects. Maybe we'll get some other cameos later on in the evening, but this is going to be a good show, a very, very important show because guys, it never stops, right? It never stops when it comes to news in the vintage collecting market. You know, last week I was on the show with the guys over on Pressable Defects channel. Gary was there, I was there, and we were talking about JSA. Maybe it was a week and a half ago. And we were like, okay, hey, let's do another show. Let's get together again, and we'll have it on my YouTube here. And we're like, well, what are we going to talk about? And we're like, oh, I'm sure something will pop up. And sure enough, it did. So in this show, we're going to talk about the CGC 99. We have some other interesting, things to discuss with it. Obviously, I made my video about it. I see a couple people in the chat here already poking fun. How many videos are we going to make about the same book? We're going to make all of the videos, James. We're going to make all of the videos because it's important. It's important. I mean, Mark, talk about beating a dead horse on the same book. Lol, it doesn't even go up for auction until June. I mean, Mark, what do you expect? Who would have thought that comic book collecting YouTube would talk about comic book collecting news? Next, you're going to tell me New York Yankees YouTube talks about the New York Yankees every day. That would be ridiculous, right? But here we are. We're going to get a little bit of my opinions. We have some interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about Neo Cards and Comics Post, who I actually saw in the chat. I thought that was really interesting context. And then really what I want to hear is, the Pressable Defects thoughts on this one, because, the guys, as far as I know, haven't talked about it yet. And I would love to hear, what kind of insight that they can sort of bring into the conversation. But I want to say, once again, thank you to everyone hanging out in the chat right now. It's good to see everybody there. Derek, always good to see you, man. We got Nary Nan here. Is Swag doing a longer show tonight or just the normal 20-minute beatdown? It's going to be a little bit of a longer show. I mean, we're going to talk about the 9/9. We're going to talk about King Khan coming up. It's a comic book show that the Defects are involved with. We're going to talk about some of the heritage auction sales that are for the Platinum auction that is actually starting on Thursday. Action Comics #1, some of the big books. I mean, we are guaranteed to have, okay, maybe not guaranteed, but pretty much guaranteed, it's going to be a world record for the most expensive comic book ever sold. So that'll be interesting to talk about as well. But, I can say what's up to the chat here. I mean, we got lots to talk about, and I don't want it mean to ramble on because I got my guest here in the backstage. So why don't we bring him on before we continue on? And, if everyone could give a round of applause and a like in the video to welcome Matt Forge from the Pressable Defects. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for returning, hopping on the channel. How you been, man?
Not bad. It's been a while since I've been back here, but it's. I feel like it's been recent since we've shared a screen, so it's cool. It's good.
Yeah.
This is what's supposed to happen in the community, right?
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see people in the chat. I see a lot of familiar names, so that's very cool. And I got to say, I now have to step up our countdown game because I don't even. Ours was like you were getting put to sleep. It was like a funeral procession. I'm bobbing my head to yours, so we got to step up our game. So Jay, get on that. We're gonna need to pick up the pace on that. So good to be here. Good to be here. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about. Yeah, it's good to talk to you about this stuff. But we're gonna dive deep into the King Khan comic show later on. But I do want to let people know that you guys have this comic show coming up later on this weekend. You want to give people just a little bit of it just so they can be aware. There's some links in the description and stuff. Just a quick overview before we dive into our topics.
Yeah, we'll talk real quick. So this Saturday, April 6th, we have a buddy, great guy in the community, Greg. He's been putting on King Khan now for 3 years, but it's the 5th show. Now they're just once a year that he's kind of got his grip around it. And it's, for the community, by the community is a slogan kind of coined by the Butcher 105, my counterpart over at the Defects. And it's like I said, the 5th iteration, and this is just a great. I can't even say it's like a local show now because people are coming from all over the country. We got a guy coming from Alaska this year. There's some great guests this year. You got Klaus Jansen, Lee Weeks, Ryan Brown, Dan Parent. For you Archie fans, is going to be there. Chris Campana. So you got CGC in the house, doing submissions. And then the vendor lineup is just, it's names that let's put it that way. And I'm telling you, people leave there every year like, this was a great show. This is a comic book show. It's a community show. The Northeast kind of gets together, and this thing just keeps growing exponentially very, very quickly. So, it's going to be a good time. So if you can make it, it's this Saturday at the Park Ridge Marriott, New Jersey, right on the border of New York. And we could talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that's going to be there a little later, I guess.
Yeah. All right, really quick. People are saying that your microphone is not a 9.9.
It's not a 9.9.
They're accusing you of being a 9.9.
How about that?
So
how about that? Any better?
Let us know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. We're gonna have to roll with it. You guys let us know if the sound is still an issue. But let's kind of get into this show here. Let's go into the big news. I forgot to mention as well, guys. I played my trailer. I got the Kickstarter going on. 15 days left to hop on the bandwagon. If you want to support my Lovecraftian comic book, link is also in the description. But let's talk about some books that aren't quite new, like my comic book. We got some old comic books, 50 years old, being pulled out of who knows where and being evaluated as perfect mint condition. Of course, we got the giant size X-Men 1 coming out, CGC 99, going to be on sale on Comic Connect. Vince obviously dropped the news about this book. I've already sort of talked about it. I'm sure people kind of understand what it is. There's been a lot of kind of conversation in the community about it. But let me kind of throw it to you for a second, Matt, and just sort of ask, what were your first thoughts when you saw it? And maybe since it's come out, which was about a week ago or so, have you had any time to reflect, or do you have any new insights into everything that's come out with this book?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I didn't even need to look at the book to know that it's not a 9.9, right? I mean, I know that probably sounds not the best, but I mean, I think anybody with any knowledge of grading or comic books, Bronze Age comic books, you're just going to know that this probably doesn't exist unless we change the scale, right? I don't want to foreshadow too much, but unless we change the scale, this book doesn't exist, right? And then when you really start looking at it, then we're not even the same stratosphere of, is this even a 9.8? I mean, you could make a case that it's probably not, right? So, listen, you tell me how far you want me to go, because I got a lot to say about this, because a lot of the things that we've talked about recently with some of these higher end heritage books that we've seen and questioned, down to the announcement of all these new 9.9s to this book here, it really all ties together. And the excuse from the previous story then gets nullified by this new one. Like, for instance, Golden Age books, it's, we're a little bit more laxed on them. Well, all of a sudden now Bronze Age books are getting 9.9, so we must be more laxed on those too. Right. Especially square bound ones, right? Because we don't need square bound spines anymore for 9.9s, apparently. But
well, let me get into the weeds with you a little bit. So did you have issue with this book of some of like these little things, like, okay, you see the spine, or was it this sort of staple stress that stood out to you mostly, or is it a combination?
I have a 7.5 of this, and it has staple stress on the back, and that's really, like, there's a couple little other things, but the first grader's note is staple stress back cover. So it's the first one. Okay, so we're just ignoring that on. I mean, we used to use 9.8 as the standard for perfection. Now we're a step above perfection, right? Like, and I know it's weird to say that because there's 9.9s and 10s, but this book has to be the most unflawed version of this book. And I mean, can we say that it is? And the fact that you have a little bit of color rub, a spine that doesn't look perfectly square, and a staple stress on the front cover, not the back cover, but the front cover. I don't know. Honestly, I now have like an extra probably 100 to 200 9.8s that I didn't think that I had before. If this is a 9.9, especially, like, it's a Bronze Age book. Like, these, this isn't a book from the 40s. This is a book from the 70s, right? So, what are we doing? I mean, this one just still blows my mind. And there's no one that's going to convince me that this is a 9.9.
Yeah.
All right. Unless they change the scale, right?
Yeah. Can I steel man for CGC for a second? Let's hypothetically here. Hypothetically, the spine got knocked around in the case. So when the grader saw it, maybe the spine was okay. And then hypothetically, if we pull up the grading scale, a 9.9 says the collectible is nearly indistinguishable from a 10.0, but will have very minor manufacturing defect. It will not have evidence of handling defects. What is a handling defect versus a manufacturing defect? Like, because how they glue this on, and the staples underneath, is this being chalked up to manufacturing, or is this a handling thing because it's like, well, they glue it on and then the more people touch it and push it, that's when the staple starts to pop. What do you think on that?
Well, I mean, where's my pressers in the chat? Because most of them are going to tell you that this is from pressing the book too hard. Okay. Which is not a printing defect, and it's not it's not even technically a handling defect. Like, I guess it could, like, I don't even know what you would, categorize that as, but I'm not saying 100% that's where this came from. But there's a good chance that staple popped through like that because of a press. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And again, I've had 9.8s books that I thought were 9.8s that didn't come back 9.8. And one of the reasons being color rub. So you can't tell me you allow color rub on 9.9s, but not on 9.8s. So again, whose scale are we going by? Do we have a different grading system depending on who submits the book? I mean, I don't want to get too far into that, but when you're ready to, I have some more to say about that. So, yeah. But yeah, this is very clean copy, extremely clean.
Yeah.
If it got a 9.8, I probably wouldn't even have blinked at it, right? Be like, it's 9.6, 9.8, sure. No one's going to talk about it, but to go to that 9.9, I don't know, man. it just seems like someone put this up on April 1st a few days early. You know what I mean? Like this book does not belong in that case. And I'm still waiting for the joke to stop because it's, good for the submitter. Yeah, I mean, I really don't mean that, so I'm going to take that back. Like that's no, it's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a nice grade bump once in a while, but this is reserved for something extremely special. And I just don't think that level can be obtained outside of modern books. I don't see it unless the book was literally taken off the press and put into some type of, protective case for 50 years and then they graded it. Then I would say, sure, maybe there's a shot at it, but we know that's not what happened here.
Yeah.
And there's evidence that suggests that it's definitely not a 9.9, let alone a 9.8.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I can't. I mean, we're going to talk about maybe sort of the whether or not the 9.9 is kind of a company level kind of corporate mandate. We're going to kind of get into that in a second. But I agree with you that this is a book that like if you gave this a 9.8, like people would be like, yeah, cool, like 9.8, why not? Like and I don't think anyone would think twice about it. But we, refer back to that one video that CGC had where they're kind of showing some of the transparency of how they're doing 9.9s. And I think one of the big takeaways for me from that was it felt like they were grading based on relativeness to other books in comparison. And shout out to Bryce Comics, who put out a video about this. And he kind of did the little deep dive and investigation. If you guys don't know, when you have the serial number here, the last number relates to the submission. So if you put in the same serial number and you make this a 5 instead of a 6, or you make it a 7 instead of a 6, you'll get the other books that were submitted with this person. So Bry did that, and he found out that, in the submission was another GSX1 9.8. So you can see it's the same cert number as this one, but it has a 7 instead of the 9.9, which has a 6. So here's kind of a situation where, you're the grader. You got the two books next to you. By your assessment, you're like, well, this is a 9.8. But then compared to this book, I mean, look at how much more red and colorful this one is than this one, right? So you're sort of like, well, yeah, I mean, in comparison, the color is so much better.
What about the spine, though? I can't see words on the 9.8, right?
That's a very good point. Like you can see there's some spine crunch here versus, say, spine here. But it just kind of gets into that place where it's like, this is where you're seeing the comparisons and maybe the graders are making these judgment things. And I don't know if they index harder on colors, like as just being something that they prefer. But I mean, what do you think about seeing this and knowing that it's kind of I guess it's a relative grade scale? I mean, my speculation, my tinfoil hat would have been like, yeah, you have a couple 9.8s. You go up to Matt Nelson and you say like, Matt, dude, look at this book, man. Come on. How are you going to tell me this isn't higher? And you get that human to human peer pressure, and then maybe they end up caving. But what do you think about all that?
Yeah. I mean, I think, okay. So the part about, let's remove the fact that maybe the submitter has a direct line, right? Let's pretend that it's just a regular submitter. I think it's a very good idea and a very good strategy to submit multiple books for relativity, because your best one has a really good chance at getting a better grade than if you were to send it by itself. 100%. We do it. I'm about to do it next week. I have 70 books going in for a 9.8 pre-screen, and they're all really, really, really high grade newsstands from the 90s. Like rare, high, so that's what we're doing. We know some of them are going to get kicked back, but we're hoping that the one or two best ones from each batch, like of the multiples, get that 9.8. That's what we're hoping for, and that's the strategy that we're trying for. So I know a lot of people that do that. I don't think it's bad faith. I think it's a good strategy because sometimes you're so close to that grade that's the edge that you need, right? Like, it becomes a judgment call as opposed to checking of the boxes, right? Because we know that grading comes down to an accumulation of things for a lot of grades, right? Right. And even in 9.8, they tell you could have a tick, But you can't have, if you have a tick, then the corners have to be perfect, or vice versa, right? So it really comes down to that judgment call, and sometimes that's the little edge. So I don't knock that practice, because I know a lot of people that do it. It was kind of shown to me as, hey, this is a good way of kind of ensuring yourself maybe that one of them gets that grade that you're searching for. But again, to pull that for a 9.9 on a book like this with clear defects, no pun intended, it doesn't make any sense. If this book didn't have that staple that we're talking about and the weird spine, I still would be questioning it, because I've submitted what I thought were perfect books and I've gotten 9.8s.
Right.
So how is this book getting a 9.9? Where is the criteria different? Who is making that judgment call? Because we've seen the scale one way for X amount of time, and now it seems like it's shifting. Is it? Or is it shifting for some and not all? Or is it shifting for all? That's a bad thing. Either one of those is a really bad thing, because if it's shifting for some, that's horrible. If it's shifting for all, well, now you have a bunch of books that are almost outdated in their grade. I guess it's bound to happen, right? Like some people search for that old original CGC label because grading was a little tougher and pressing essentially didn't exist, right?
Right.
But that's a really good reason. I mean, pressing didn't exist. It's something that got introduced. This is literally just a shift in scale, and I don't know if I'm okay with that, because now you're not comparing apples to apples. You could have two 9.8s next to each other that look like completely different books. Which one are you buying?
Yeah. Well, I think it's so interesting because, when CGC started, it started with Steve Porrock, right? And at a certain point, Steve leaves the company and new people come in, and Matt comes in, and they decide they need to redo their grading book, and they come out with like the official CGC grading hand guide. And clearly there's been a process to how they've kind of decided to run the company, and not necessarily a bad way. It's just like, there's an evolution of like, maybe Matt doesn't agree with, the original founders of CGC, like what a 9.8 criteria should be. And really now it almost, you almost have to sort of wonder, are they trying to kind of say, hey, we put out this grading guide and we need to kind of write whatever versions of CGC existed in the past. And I bet if you were to kind of have a private conversation with them and ask them like, hey, if you could wave a magic wand and go back and just say like, instead of like this 9.8, 9.9, 10 thing, like, would you just have made 9.9s like the 9.8 from the beginning? And they probably would be like, yeah, like they probably would say like, yeah, that would be a better choice, And so I think that they're maybe trying to do that. And so shout out to Neo Cards and Comics. I think he's in the chat. He put out this post. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Neo did the work. He went in, he crunched the numbers. He was curious if 9.9s have been more prevalent recently. And I wanted to share this with you in the chat and see what people think about this. But here you have it here. CGC 9.9s added to the census. In the first half of 2023, the average 9.9s that were added per month was 384. In the second half of 2023, the average 9.9s that were added to census were 689. So somewhere in the middle of the year, it doubled. And then in January of 2024, 645, so kind of close to that. February of 2024, 995. And then by the time in which he posted this, February 27th through March 5th, 300. So if you kind of average that out to the extent of the month, that would have been in that 900, maybe 1,000 mark. So small sample size here, but this kind of looks like, hey, there's a decision to add more 9.9s, unless book printing quality got better in the last 6 months, which is, I guess that's possible too. But what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, immediately my brain always tries to play devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
So immediately I'm saying to myself, well, maybe there was more submissions.
Yeah.
But if my if I'm just taking an absolutely educated guess, and I'm sure we could find this out, I would argue that there's probably less submissions as this list goes on because, I mean, I feel like the submission boom was really 2022, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
2021, 2022. And I think the first half of 2023, it really slowed down. And I think even in the second half of 2023, it probably slowed down. And I would assume when we had the controversy of December and January of the scam, I know a lot of people that stopped submitting just to kind of, not even as a like, hey, I'll never submit again kind of thing, kind of like, I'm just gonna settle down for a minute and just so educated guess, I would say that at a minimum submissions did not go up.
Right.
If anything, they went down. So these numbers are telling you that the scale is shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scale has shifted.
Yeah. And I think, before we kind of maybe see if if there's other stuff that you have to add or maybe look into the chat and see what they're saying. But, for me, if the scale shifts, if we're starting to get videos that are showing, 9.9 transparency and this is like how we do it and all this stuff, like to me, I think the most important thing is CGC can do whatever they want. Like it's their company,
For sure.
And I think I don't know, maybe this is just my thought and I'd love to hear what you think, but I kind of feel like at the end of the day, like me searching for some sort of like, grading justice or however, the purity of how it should be, I think is kind of folly maybe. I would say that like, I think it's just better that you sort of know what's happening, right? Like, hey, this is how they do the 9.9s. Sometimes it's relative grading. There's human error here. Yeah, maybe they want to start pushing 9.9s. Maybe there should be UF4s that are 9.9s and all this stuff. And this is where it's moving. And I think you just need to take that information and then you decide what to do with that. I don't know if there's any correcting this or there's any sort of like, hey, we can look at this book and say like, that's not a 9.9, but at the end of the day, it says on the label, someone's going to pay a lot for it. I can promise you that. I don't know, like, I feel like it's like, if you're somebody out there who, you still love CGC and stuff, that's totally fine. Like just use this info to whatever you want to use it to. And just know that there might be some shenanigans going on, out there. Maybe this is like, hey, maybe you don't want to overpay for a 9.9, or you start to see these differences and you're like, maybe you don't even need to buy the 9.8. Maybe just buy the 9.6 if you just want the book. You're seeing how fractional of a difference these damages are. But I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start kind of in reverse. So I know when people do these videos, myself included, we get a lot of comments like, and I know you get them, everybody gets them, about, hey, stop using the company, right? Why are you guys complaining about it? If you're going to, and we always make it very clear. And I don't know if you do, but on our channel, we always make it very clear. Like we don't want to stop using them. We want our grading company to be better, right?
Yeah.
We want them to be better. And I always say, like, because CGC is kind of the name, right? You need a strong and reliable CGC in the community. You have to. It's just the way things are. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that are the non-slab guys that are laughing, right, about all of this and thinking that, hey, this is why I don't do it. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, maybe people don't care because it's like you're worried about what you want to collect, not what somebody else is going to collect, right? But it's part of the community, whether you want it to be, or the hobby, whether you want it to be or not. So It needs to be strong and it needs to be reliable and it needs to be a name that, 99% of the time you could trust. And when that starts to deviate from that 99.9% of the time, it's bad. And when you really start getting away from it, it becomes really bad and things start to devolve. And now trust becomes an issue and you're throwing off the balance of a lot of things. If somebody said in the chat, it should be fraud to call that a 9.9. And when I first read that comment, I kind of laughed. And then I said, well, I mean, maybe he's not wrong, like in a way, right? Like maybe not to the extent of saying fraud, but like you've now CGC, whether they like it or not, they are assigning a value monetarily to a book, and they have just exponentially increased the value of this book. No matter how it doesn't matter what they say, that's what they're doing, right? And they can factor that in or not. It doesn't matter because that's the reality. So now by being, and I was gonna say willy nilly, which was gonna completely like date me, but like with just being very loose with your scale, like, oh, it goes this way, it goes that way, it goes whatever which way you want it to go. Like you're really, I don't want to curse on your child. You're really messing with things. You're really messing with things, and I know they don't care about that, but that's the problem, right? Yeah. That is the problem because this is not a cheap hobby. This is an expensive hobby for the majority of people that are in it. Some people spend very little money in this hobby and still are involved, and that is completely fine. And I want you guys to remember that. It does not matter how much you spend or what your best book is, what the most valuable book is in your collection. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, that it's not valuable. But there is a lot of people that spend a decent amount of money, a lot of money, amounts of money that we will maybe never even see in this chat combined, right? Like, so they are starting to really play with that, almost like God, and they have to be better. And we've said that, and I think that's a phrase that a lot of people use. They have to be better. We want them to be better. We don't want to make these kinds of videos. This is basically been the headline nonstop for how many months now. And, in some cases, sure, are we beating a dead horse? Like as YouTubers, like I'm sure there's some of that, but a lot of it is self-inflicted wounds by CGC. I mean, that's just, they keep getting themselves in headlines. I going back to what you said, this feels dirty to me. This doesn't feel right. This feels like there's some shenanigans going on. So can we put the tinfoil hats on for a minute? Are we allowed to do that?
I think the chat would love it if we all went full tinfoil hat.
We'll go full tinfoil hat. So
I know the chat's ready for tinfoil.
Did we go like a warning? Did we do like a tinfoil hat warning? Like,
oh man, I need to make a little like.
I need to make something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I was telling Swag before, and there's some stuff that I'm going to say live, and there's some that I'm not, because we have a responsibility as creators to. You can't just say anything, right? Like some of it has to be corroborated, and whether I believe it or not, like there's some things that you just can't do and say, because it's not you're not doing it in good faith, right? So. Going back to a lot of the videos that you've seen myself do, Swaggle do, Automatic do, where some of the heritage auctions that ended in the last 3 or 4 months, we saw major grails with extremely high grades, right? Things that we've never seen that were eye-popping, that when we first see, we're like enamored by. But then all of a sudden, you look a little closer, and you look a little closer, and you look a little closer, and then all of a sudden you see a video of, was that first Wonder Woman really a 9.4? Was that Hulk 1 really a 9.2, I believe the grade was? Was that ASM 1 that was a 9.6 really a 9.8, right? And I think it was universally by people that I value their opinion of, all those grades should not have been the grades. And I don't mean like the 9.2 should have been a 9.0. It was like that 9.2 should have been an 8.5 or an 8.0. Right. That 9.4 should have been an 8.0. And the reason was, well, Golden Age books are graded harder. I mean, are graded more lenient because the paper was different and this and that. So we did a live show where I actually took CGC's grading book and I used their words against them and said, here's what it says in your book. Here's what's allowed. Here's what's allowed for a Golden Age book. Here are the allowances for Golden Age books. Because you could kind of piece it together throughout that CGC grading guide and figure out, like, in some circumstances, Golden Age quality is better for certain things because the paper, in some scenarios, the quality holds up better, which is weird to to read, but I read that off of the CGC thing, and how I read it, I wish I would have brought it to you or sent you the link, the screenshot of it. That there's certain aspects of the paper that are better quality because of how it was produced, right? Versus modern paper, or even Copper Age paper, right? Probably Copper Age paper, right? Because the modern stuff is like it's not even paper. It feels like, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a new material,
right. So you start to see we saw all those grades that did not seem like grades, and now I have people that I trust that are inside telling me that this moment right here that we're talking about was coming 6 months ago, and I didn't believe him. I did not believe him that he said pay for grades was happening, and that these books, why is it that all of these books were happening at the same time? And I thought that was a really good question. Why are we seeing all these record-breaking books sell and come to light at the exact same time? Right? This isn't a regular occurrence. Like if you go back a year ago, 2 years ago, we didn't have like the highest grade of every major key that you could kind of think of when you rattle them off your head, like literally 3 auctions in a row. Like that, how is that happening? How is the person that got a 9.9 on, let's say, a GSX-1 also getting a 9.8 on a Silver Age Iron Man #1 a couple months ago? And maybe people don't realize that is the same person. I'll do person. You know, why is that happening? Why is this person just have the best luck in the world? And maybe the tinfoil hat is a little too tight, but I like to think when there's smoke, there's at least a little bit of fire.
Yeah.
How much? That's for everybody to decide on their own, because we're all going on hearsay. Some of it I've seen firsthand. Like I said, that 9.8 Iron Man #1, that is to the same person that had the GSX #1. I didn't think that Silver Age book. Can a Silver Age, like Swag, if I asked you 6 months ago, do you ever see a Silver Age book, like an early Silver Age book, getting a 9.8? What would your answer have been?
Yeah, no. I mean,
right? It's like 1 in a billion shot,
yeah.
Right? Like, but now it's happening, right? So expect to see more of that. I don't know. It just seems too calculated and patterned, and it's almost like they didn't think anybody was going to be looking, but it's literally staring us right in the face. As far as, I don't know, all the video, you guys have done a great job with a lot of the videos. We did some of them, but you guys covered them all, and it was like it's just lining up. I mean, this is not conspiracy stuff. This is you're just laying out facts for people, and people can make their own decision.
100%. And this is the thing, is like, I don't get too much, but every now and again, people will tell me it's like, oh, like Swag, you're being super negative, or you want to farm this drama. Let me just say, like, negative is not a good thing in my own self-serving interest, as far as like, oh, let me make some YouTube videos. Like, yes, like sometimes the CGC ones get like tons of views relative, but like if there's skepticism amongst collectors, it's not a good thing for people who do YouTube. It's actually so much worse. There was so much more growth in COVID when things were fun and everyone was excited about stuff than there was, at this moment in time. And to that point, some of this stuff, I think, and this is again my tinfoil hat, and I have no idea what's true. It's just sort of what I logic to be true. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about some of the Heritage Auction stuff coming up. We got an Action Comics #1 that's going to set the world record, and maybe someone's really going to buy it. I mean, maybe Nick Cage is buying it. I don't know, like someone like that. I'm sure there's a real person that is buying it, but the point is, success with these big numbers, having it be the headline that is, world record comic book Action 1, like it's going to go beyond comicbooks.com. Like this headline, it's going to go on CNN. It's going to go on all these, types of news outlets. And that is good for the hobby. That creates the interest in the casual collectors and the fringe people, and they come back into the comic book stores. And even if they don't spend money on that, that there's just interest and excitement in the market. And so where I'm going with all that is like, you have to always be able to sort of generate that next new record sale, or that next new high sale, or that next new hype book, or the big premiere flagship book of that next auction, and if you can't do that, then you won't be able to generate any headlines and hype. So to what you were saying, how is it that high grades show up all of a sudden. Well, it's like it benefits the entire industry if high grades go up for sale and set new record prices and all this sort of stuff. So again, tinfoil hat or just logic, it's like, they want this. Everybody wants this. This is good for the business of vintage comic book collecting. So take that for what, you want to take it for. So it's just, this is by design in a way,
Yeah. Maybe we should shut our mouths, because maybe we should be grateful that they're like keeping interest alive,
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's like real tinfoil.
Yeah. It's super tinfoil, but again, it's not.
But I get what you're saying. I mean, you're 1,000% right about that. The interest. Yeah.
And I don't mean to be negative. I mean, comics are super fun. I love comics, and so I want the hobby to do well. I don't have an issue with CGC. I think that, they're important for the hobby, like you said. But, we make these videos and we have these conversations because we want to let them know what the community thinks and feels. So
yeah,
that's
could you imagine if you didn't make the video, the comments that would be had, right? So the same people, the people that are commenting, like, why are you doing this? Why are you being like, what if you didn't make the video and it happened again and again and again, and you just ignored it? How many people will you think would be commenting like, why are you ignoring this? Are you complicit in this scam? Are you part of this cover up? Oh, look at all those slabs behind you, Swaggle. It must be because you're getting good grades. So, this is the game that we play as content creators. You have to pick your battles, and as long as we can go to sleep at night with our head on a pillow and know that we're doing the right thing. That's, I love 99.9% of our followers, and even the ones that really give us a hard time, I love them too. So I'll say 100%, because it keeps us honest. Like, those are the people that you think of when you're like, should I say or do this or not? Right? It's that 1%. You're like, am I doing the right thing here? And they keep you honest, and that's good. But you guys got to remember, like, we are, yes, like Swaggle says, like, of course, these videos are fun to make, and they interest you guys, which is always great motivation for us to keep going. When you get 5 views on a video, it's hard to make that next video. But when you get 5,000, everyone's happy. Everyone's humming along. So it's a symbiotic relationship, and you have to talk about this stuff. We have to talk about it. Are we going to change things? I don't know. Maybe, maybe even if it changes it a small percentage, like, it's something, right? Yeah. I mean, look what Manu did. He's in the chat, right?
Yeah.
What if that didn't happen?
Yeah. Can you imagine? Yeah. Like, if he never found it, West Coast Dave and Manu, shout out to them. If they never brought it up, the guy would just be doing it still, there would be no changes in how CGC, operates as far as resource. And we're assuming that they've made changes for the better,
Right. And listen, that is not a story that's over by any stretch of the imagination, because that will have ripple effects out for the next few years. You'll see changes in the case eventually, I'm sure. There'll be legal ramifications. Investigations are going to go on for a long time. And, so that was an important moment for this hobby. And, the only way that moment happens is when you talk about things like this, and you do the research, and you have discussions, whether it's with your friends in a group chat or live here on a YouTube channel. So everybody keep doing it, like, bring the facts, just, and keep commenting, because that's what's important. It's just as important as we are making the videos, is you guys watching them and commenting and interacting. Like, it doesn't happen without you guys. So
totally. All right. Well, last thoughts before we move on to the next thing. You got any price predictions for this? Should we just throw it out right now? This thing goes on sale in June. Or anyone in the chat got a price prediction?
Yeah, I see Jay in the chat now, the Butcher 105 in the chat. I'm sure that would have been interesting to get his take on this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'd be a very not enthused take.
Oh God, no. I mean, listen, it's this price. I don't know. What was I should have done a little research. What was the last 9/8 sale?
So the peak of COVID 9/8 sale, I think, was like 71K.
71K.
And then kind of recent sales, you're looking at like 25, 30K.
So I think that there is a point of, diminished returns for a book like this because it is a Bronze Age. I mean, this is there's no major first appearances in this, right? Like it's more about the book, and there's some first appearance, but
You
it's
get
not
Storm.
like
Storm's probably
that's a major appearance. You're
yeah.
100% right. But it's like, I don't know how many people are actually going to bid on this book is what is going to hold it back. So
Yeah.
I think $100,000 is the cap for this. Maybe
Really?
even just south. Yeah. I think it gets held back by what it is. It's a great book, but I think $100,000 goes a long way on some other very, very important books in the Silver Age. And maybe I'm just talking for myself. Like if I had $100,000 that was like, I had to spend it on a comic, it's not going to be this 9.9. I can tell you that.
Right.
And are people going to not bid on it to a certain point because of the defects that we see? Because I know a lot of high-end collectors that will totally shy away from a book, even if it's a deal,
Sure.
because of certain page qualities, characteristics on the cover versus maybe the defects are on the front cover versus the back cover. So if you're telling me that those guys that spend a lot of money are that particular, that's going to apply here. That will 100% apply here. And if people don't think it's a 9.9, that will hurt the sale a little bit. Maybe I'm undercutting it a little bit, but I don't know, man. I think I'm sticking at 100.
So I'll throw mine in. I'll say this. Like I thought 100 for sure. Like we're going six figures guaranteed. Now, how high up? I'll say that. Okay, remember when we had the Marvel Spotlight that sold for $250? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 of them.
Okay.
And that one sold for $250, and that was the height of COVID. So there's kind of like, okay, but if it adjusted back down, where are we at? Whatever. Right. But being that this is the one, and that was the floor. And I talked to some people at WonderCon, and they were kind of like, yeah, a couple people I know were like, yeah, I paid $250 for it. And when they said it so casually, I was like, oh, there's a couple crazy people that are going to go pretty high. So I'm going to say 300. Really? That would be my guess. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go 300.
Wow. All right.
But I could be wrong.
Man, 9.9 makes a good point. Like the smart collectors are not bidding on this book. So maybe I'm too blinded by the people that I associate with that are in our chat. Like they're smart collectors, right? Yeah, they know. A lot of them know more than we do, and it's like, so maybe I'm blinded by that. That there are, listen, a fool and his money will soon be, what's the saying, and that maybe you're right. Maybe this is 300. I mean,
and you know what it is too. You have to. I mean, I don't know how it happened. This again, back to tinfoil hat thing. But like, if you're Comic Connect and you got relationships and you're calling around and there's some whatever, NFL player or NBA player that's like, I loved X-Men 97. Hey, this is the best copy in the world. Best copy in the world. All right.
Yeah,
I'll pay that. Whatever. Right? They just.
Oh man.
I don't know. I don't know if those types of things get kind of networked, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's on Comic Connect, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you ask 10 people in this community if they ever heard of Comic Connect, I have a feeling like 4 or 5 of them are going to say no.
Right.
It's not Heritage. It's not Comic Link. It's not eBay, right? Like Comic Connect's like that next one. I mean, it's not even golden, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they hit the phones for sure.
We'll see.
They're pulling bids from everywhere.
I'm sure, when June comes around, we'll definitely.
We'll all be doing videos. I'm sure we'll get back together.
Yeah. Big shout out to Brian, man. Thank you for becoming a channel member. And also big shout out to Oilers Workshop. Great, good combo, guys. Comic book version of JRE. Appreciate that, man. That's good to hear. And you guys got to check out Oilers Workshop. He makes really awesome like model stuff. He's got a cool YouTube channel. So
He
check
does.
that out. You're into that type of thing. Well, before we go on to other books that are sure to hit record prices like Action Comics #1, let me quickly just let's just talk once again about King Con coming up this weekend, guys. You know, Matt, let them know about King Con once again if people just join the show, and let's also tell them about, you know, some of these covers that we got here.
Yeah. So about the show again, April 6th, our buddy Greg, MTG, he's been put on. This is the 5th iteration of the show, and it just keeps growing very quickly. He's in a new venue this year, much bigger, like a real big venue, you know, compared to where he started. It's kind of like a local show, but it's just become so much more than that, especially how fast it's growing. People are coming. There's a guy coming from Alaska, like I said earlier. Klaus Janson, Lee Weeks, Dan Parent for the Archie fans, Chris Campana, Zombie Pets, RGB. Everybody knows, you know, he's the king of the remarks at this point. And then the vendor list is just crazy. I mean, this is for the community, by the community. That's the slogan that the Butchers coined, and it's Park Ridge Marriott, April 6th. Come on out Saturday. It's going to be a blast. We'll be set up in there. Very Gary, Erod, Absolute, you know, Zap. There's just a ton of new vendors, old vendors. It is on the border of New Jersey, New York, Park Ridge, New Jersey. So if you're anywhere in the tri-state area, this is definitely, I'm telling you guys, and it's not just because it's our friend. Like we don't get behind things at the channel unless we really, really believe in them. This is a special show, and I don't even know where it'll be in 10 years, but I know it's going to be. This will be on everybody's radar for sure. So get in there. It's a blast. The link I think is in the description below to buy your tickets early. There's gonna be some cool stuff there. There's definitely gonna be some cool stuff there. And then we have there's a couple show exclusives. You have Dan Parent is there, so obviously there is a Betty and Veronica Friends Forever Purple Rain homage on the left there, limited to 220. And again, Dan Parent is the gold standard of Archie covers, right? So to have him there with the exclusive is great, right? Because now he's signing it for you. Again, CGC will be there for submissions, a facilitator, so you can get a yellow label, or you could submit your books for a blue label, because we know a lot of people don't like to mail them. And then on the right is a book that I think snuck up on a lot of people, because now all of a sudden we're seeing everybody scrambling because the pre-orders were so low, and that's Feral. And that is the same creative team that brought you Stray Dogs. This is in the Stray Dog universe. It is Feral. And that is, for those of you that don't know, the Exorcist homage cover. So apparently I haven't seen these in person yet, but all of that work was done with like cross-hatching, which is incredible if you guys have ever seen it. And this is, as of like a week or two ago, I don't know if it's changed, but this will be the lowest print run variant of all Ferals. It was at the time, it was a 500 print count from Image Comics. And this will be available at the show. And then for those of you that can't make it, we will be going live on eBay Live from the show. And we are going to basically bring a con experience to you, selling exclusives, selling, we've kind of got signatures pre-done. We have remarks from Klaus Janson and Lee Weeks on Daredevil and G.I. Joe books. We have other key comics that you might find on a wall. We have variants that you might find at other cons. We have an artist live sketching with us, taking requests of what people want sketched on books. We'll be auctioning that off. I mean, we're bringing the whole con experience. We'll be offering pressing services. We'll be offering CGC gold label on the signature stuff. We're trying to bring the whole gamut to you guys. And then and I'm sorry I'm rambling here, but there's just like so much to this, like that's going into it. And then I sent it to Swaggle earlier. A follower of ours is a really great artist that does things on the side, and we posted it up on Instagram. He created this 24 by 36 canvas, and it's essentially a sketched and then painted recreation of Silver Surfer #4. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And it is the Buscema, the Jusco after Buscema recreation. So he sketched it and then painted it on a canvas. The detail is unreal. It's 20, like I said, 24 by 36. We will be someday. Da Vinci is his name. He's taking commissions now. We've been telling him forever, like, you're a good artist, dude. Like, you got to put your stuff out there. So this is his first public work. We will be auctioning this piece off live on eBay. And all proceeds, all the profit, I shouldn't say the profit, all of the money after eBay takes their cut will be going to charity. So he's donating everything to charity. We said we're on board with that. So this is a special piece. It's a member of the community. It's absolutely amazing. We've showed it to, like, before we posted it, we showed it to a bunch of people that are like, I'm bidding on that. I don't care what because usually we don't like to have people that we know bid on stuff. Like, I don't care what you say, I'm bidding on that. So it's special. So this is going to be a really fun show, whether you could be there or you can't. And if you can't, the link, I think, to the stream is in the description as well. And you could just click on that and hit the reminder. And this way you know when we'll go live, 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Definitely awesome stuff. Well, guys, if you're in the, Northeast, no excuses. Just go to the show. Info is in the description. Or if you can't make the show, check out the Pressable Defects. They got their live stream on eBay Live. I checked it out. I think my predictions for 2023 have not, like, some of them have come true. I keep saying, like, I think at some point eBay Live is going to be, disruptive in a good way into the comic book market. As soon as, what are they still in beta in terms of, like?
It is, yeah. It actually is still fully in beta, and and we could do a video on that at some point if you want. We could do a whole, like, pros and cons, like, first, all the platforms. I think that I was thinking about that earlier, but there's some really good things about it, and then there's some stuff that is glitchy because it's in beta. But we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from buyers and us as sellers. Like, we know the shortcomings and we know the stuff that's strong on it. So far so good.
Well, check it out, guys. And also, I donated some books of Sanity to Greg there. So I don't know what he decided to do, but I think he's going to do it for people who get there early. So you're going in saving $5 if you get my book. You know what I mean? So there's no excuse.
First comes, first serve on those. Basically, the first, I forget how many donated. Greg was very appreciative. He was, I said, hey, we were looking for people to kind of community members to be part of the show. And the first name that actually popped in my head, I said, talk to Swaggle. I said, I think there's something that maybe you guys can work out there. And sure enough, here we are. So from the West Coast, representing from the West Coast for King Kong.
Representing. Happy to get it out there. Hopefully people read it and they like it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, before we finish out, I wanted to get your thoughts while I have you on a few big auctions coming up. If you guys don't know, starting on Thursday through the weekend is the Platinum Heritage Auction. And Platinum auctions those are the big boy books. This is like their signature stuff. They do weekly auctions, but they pool together all of the biggest stuff for, specific moments throughout the year. And I wanted to go through a few of them, just kind of ask Matt what you think about some of this stuff. Some of them are interesting. Some of them, it's cool to see, like, oh, look at this high grade, like this is the top of census. Some of them, maybe we can tinfoil hat a little bit, get spicy with it. But the one we got to start with is, of course, Action Comics #1. You guys know what this book is. First appearance of Superman. It's an 8.5, a Kansas City pedigree. Now, there are 2 higher grade than this. And the record price for this book is $3 million. The record price for comic book period was a private sale of a Superman 1 that sold for $5 million, 5.2 or 5.3 or whatever. So it's technically a little bit higher than this, but it was a private sale. This is going to be the highest, most transparent, we'll call it public sale. I'm sure this is going to get more bids, when this thing comes in. Some people thinking 8 million, some people saying 10 million. It's currently at 5 million. What else can I say? A couple of people have said that the 2 copies that are 9.0, I don't know if this is true, but like someone owns both of them and is like a permanent collector. So like museum. In theory,
he has like a museum.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. And this is the highest, let's call it the highest publicly graded Action 1 that will ever come to market. What do you think about this one? How are you feeling about Action 1.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, it's funny because when we did a video on this, we were kind of looking at it to say like, hey, is this an A5?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's a golden age book. I wouldn't, and a modern wouldn't get an A5 with that. But
right,
having said that, like, I feel comfortable saying that this book is an A5. Like, it's not
right,
making me lose my mind. You know what I mean?
right.
I think this is really cool. I have people calling me and asking me about this that have no clue about comics because they heard about it somewhere already. And again, that is great for our hobby. So I want this book to go for 100 million. Clearly it's not, but I think 6.5 to 7 is where this will settle.
Yeah.
I don't see it hitting 8. I definitely don't see it hitting 10 because of those 2 higher existing copies.
Right.
That's what I think limits it. Having the Kansas City pedigree is huge. That being the first pedigree, if I'm not mistaken, ever recognized. Is that correct, Swaggle?
Actually, I don't know anything about it. What was it?
I believe I believe the Kansas City pedigree is the first recognized pedigree. So that's a really cool aspect of this. But having 2 books higher than this, I think holds it down a little bit.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Actually, now that you say that, the fact that it's Kansas Superman. I mean,
I didn't even think about that.
Thematically, that is a cool pedigree for this book.
Very, very true.
So
that's Derek's. It says it does not present as nice as the Rocket copy, and he is correct about that.
That's true. Yeah, the Rocket copy, I think, was the record for this book, for this book, period. But yeah, this one looks like it's gonna, if not shatter the record, certainly break the record for the most expensive comic book ever sold.
Yeah, you'll see that number, like you said, in the last 12 hours, that number will start really jumping.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll report back on that one. Another one I thought was interesting to talk about is this Captain America Comics 1, first appearance of Captain America. It's a 9.2, and while it's not the highest on the census, there actually is a 9.8 of it. What I thought was interesting about this one, and maybe this can be the conversation, is you see here the 9.2s, there's 3 of them, and the last sale was 810. And if you do some digging, what you'll find out is the last sale is the same book.
Same copy. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you always make of that type of thing? It's like someone bought this book for $800K in August of 2023. And here we are, April of 2024, not too long later, and now it's going back up for sale. I mean, was this just like a dealer that was going for the flip, or what do you think about that?
I don't know too many people that are flipping close to $1 million books. But going back to the tinfoil, I mean, that copy of All-Star Comics 8, I believe, right? First Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That's up for sale again already.
There you go.
So did the owner not get the price that he wanted? And it's on a different auction site.
Right.
And that's a quick turnaround. Like, it's already out there as upcoming. That happens. I mean, you're talking about astronomical amounts of money, right? So people are think about what people do for $100. Forget about $1 million, right?
Right.
So yeah, I when I see that, when you see as quick of a flip as that, listen, things can happen, right? The rug gets pulled out from people all the time. So definitely possibilities. But when you see it over and over, or when you see it a couple times on different books, you got to know at least one of them, there's something going on here. So this is an amazing book. I mean, either way, but I don't know. We'll see if it goes higher than it went last time. And again, I don't know. Collectors are finicky, so you never know what just jives them the wrong way. Like, hey, this just sold. You're not fooling anybody here, but we'll see. It's definitely a lot lower right now, right? I mean,
it's it's only halfway there. It's got a double to get to 810. I'm always curious about these ones because I feel like our anytime I see a book kind of go this way, I mean, it could be that like a collector just kind of overstretched and then sort of realized like, what am I going to do with this thing? And just like, I got to sell this. But to me, I kind of feel like there's probably just, maybe dealers buying this stuff, looking to maybe make sales, and then they got to keep things moving, and
maybe.
things go back up. But pretty interesting with that one.
Yeah.
This one caught my eye as well. You got a 9/8 Daredevil 1. Talk about top of census for Marvel Silver Age keys. Like, this auction alone has top of census for a bunch of books. And this one I know is interesting because it's $252 right now. I think the record sale, I'm not sure. I think it was like 100, like a 9/6. There's 3 9/8s.
Yeah.
I've heard of a private 9/8 sale that sold for like $800K. I don't think that's going to get $800K on this one. But what do you think about this Daredevil?
I mean, you know what? I didn't look at this one close to see. Hey, again, because if somebody's buying a 9/8, especially now with everything we see, like, people are going to want these things to be looking like a 9/8. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Is this a 9/8? Like, right off the bat, you got a tick. I could see without you zooming in that the top left-hand corner is rubbed bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's got like some,
so it's not a 9/8. Like, you're not going to change my mind, right? Like, nobody in the chat, you're not going to change my mind. This is not a 9/8.
Right.
So it's going to hold this book back, even though I think a lot of people, and I know people hate to do it, but the big screen and the small screen definitely drive the price of some of this stuff. And I think people are kind of excited about what's possible with the Daredevil series. So while I see it being very far from 800 right now, I think this will jump more than expected.
Yeah.
400 to 500, I think.
Yeah.
500.
I mean, already this is going to be the record price for Daredevil 1. So, hey, record personal best still.
You got a lot of competition, and that's the problem. When you have these major top of the census books all in the same, auction, a lot of them are going to suffer, right? Especially the ones that aren't, like you just showed, Tech 27 and All-Star Comics 1. And, because comparatively so, Daredevil 1 is like small potatoes, right? Like when you're talking about those books, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny. I mean, we can jump ahead to this one. And to me, the talking point was actually going to be, Comic Connect just had a recent sale, and they had a 6.0, like 2 weeks ago or something. Like, they had a 6.0 and it sold for like 1.8 million. It was the record for that grade and stuff. And here you have another one. And it's like, I guess these books just fall off of trees, they just, every auction has one, they always.
This is already the record for this grade, correct?
Yeah, this is already the record for this grade. The question is it going to be 1 million? Is it going to hit 1 million? Because I think if you go here, let me see. I don't know how accurate Go Collect recent sales are, but here you see a 4.5 that went for 1.1 in 2022. So, like, can the 3.0 hit the 1 million mark? I don't know.
It's crazy, like, that some pages sell for like 100,000 or 200,000, and like purple labels sell for a couple 100,000. So again, I think, unfortunately, a lot of times with these books, circumstances are going to dictate price. And again, you're in an auction with other just insane books. So, I mean, this is I don't know. Is this the second best book in this auction? Maybe it's the third. It's probably the second best auction in this book.
Yeah.
Slightly brittle pages. That's going to probably deter a couple bidders.
Yeah.
Looks pretty nice though. I mean, that's not a bad looking 3.
You have a little here, but honestly, it's not bad. Like,
it's a decent looking 3. In my eyes, at least, for what my eye goes to.
Totally.
I don't know. It'll be, oh man. I think when people start getting bid out of another book, right? Like when they get outpriced on a certain book, they're going to start shifting their focus, and things are going to happen very fast for some of these books at the very end. So I could see this hitting 900.
Yeah.
I think it'll be just shy of 1 million.
Yeah. You kind of wonder, like, are the people who go into the auction being like, they got their money and they know they want that action one. And then it's like, if they don't buy this, do they say, well, let me grab that detective,
Yeah. What's the backup plan?
Yeah, exactly. So be interesting to watch this one. Now, this one here, this is very interesting to me. The reason being is that it's the CBCS label, the 9/8 House of Secrets 92, first Swamp Thing. Now, for context for you, as I get your thoughts, the 9/8 of CGC did go on sale recently. not too long ago. It was in January of this year, 84,000, slight correction from the COVID price of 90.
Yeah.
So now in the CBCS label, we're currently sitting at 26. Can this get anywhere near 84?
No. And if anybody wants to join up with me, if this stays below 40, we should buy it, resubmit it, and make our 80 on CGC. I'm serious, because this book is not going to sell for 40.
Yeah.
It sucks that that's the case, but it is the case, right? This is a nice looking copy.
Yeah, it's nice actually. I kind of did I pre-scrubbed before.
It's not bad. Yeah, this is not this is as close to a 9.8 as we've seen so far out of all the books, right? I don't know. I mean, it's such a shame with CBCS, and shame on them because they don't take advantage when they should. So it's completely up their fault as well. But the premiums are just not there. And especially on these high end books, like people will literally scroll past this without even giving it a second look. There's plenty of people that will run right past this, and anybody that is bidding on this is probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Buy it at a real deep discount, send it into CGC, and pray for a 9.8 and make your money.
Yeah.
Because even if it's a 9.6, maybe depending on what it goes for, maybe you only lose a couple thousand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we said, the quick look over, it's a nice looking book. So I think that there's definitely going to be a dealer that is going to want to go for the quick.
This is going to CGC. I mean,
yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. So cool one to see. I think that one is super interesting. A couple other ones here.
DC Keys right now, very undervalued. That's where, if I'm giving free advice, that's where I'm putting my money.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think James Gunn may shift the dynamic. That's all I'm going to say. Get your silver and especially Bronze Age DC Keys, because those are super undervalued.
That's what I said. I could be wrong on this, but I was on a show. Shout out to Spec Tales, their podcast, and they always do a little Spec thing and just say, "What do you think?" And I kind of gave a cop-out answer, but I stand by this. To me, I feel like just Superman, period, is like pick your poison. You want to get a Golden Age Superman, you want to get Neil Adams cover Superman, you want to get some modern Superman. I just feel like people forget, man. I think people forget. Like Superman he's the flagship superhero, And if James Gunn does it right, like, man, if you get the Christian Bale, Nolan level Batman experience for Superman, I mean,
well, I'll tell you. So I have this conversation often, and I look at Halloween and I look at costumes, and the last 2 years, the amount of Marvel and DC costumes that came to my door were it was so far down. It's not even funny.
Right.
I mean, the years before that, it was Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. It's like this year it was like I saw like 3 superhero costumes, right? And so it goes by the kids. Like, what are the kids interested in? And as of today, kids do not care about Superman. Okay?
Yeah.
Kids do not care about Superman. So if they can make a Superman that is great, because we know what the importance of Superman is, they can make it that it's great and it goes mainstream and it reaches kids, your game has been changed completely. Because just like no kids cared about an Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. changed that forever, right? Yeah. At least for the foreseeable future. And if they do something like that with Superman, that dynamic has completely flipped between Marvel and DC, and that will ripple down between for comic books and reselling and everything. It will make its way all the way down the hobby eventually. So a lot of people don't think it's possible, but trust me, it does not take much. You need one pivotal role that reaches the right demographic at the right time, and things will shift very quickly.
Yeah, obviously it's a big ask, but if you hit that one tentpole movie, culture changes very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of more DC, Sensation Comics 196, first Wonder Woman cover, second appearance. I think this is the top of census. Yes, it is. Sold for $400K back in 2017. I mean, with these books, it's currently at 288. It's not quite where it sold last. A lot of Wonder Woman competition. We've seen like the All-Star 8 kind of have corrections more than other ones. I mean, what do you think about Wonder Woman these days? Does that movie hurt her?
I don't know if it hurts. That's kind of like the thing with DC Comics also, is that like their movies don't really move the comics too much, but the bad ones don't also move them down, right? Too much.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the beauty of it. Now, is that I think you said it. Is that the exceptional sticker? Is that
Yeah, it says
the Pristine.
Pristine wartime
Pristine
comic.
sticker, right. I think that's a big draw to this book, even though, I mean, isn't it an exceptional 9/6? I mean, sure, it's a wartime. I mean, this is an old book, so I will give a little bit of a leeway on this one for sure. It looks okay. It's a decent copy. Obviously, it's tanned up a little bit, but that is a pretty sharp looking copy for the most part. I don't know. I mean, people want to love Wonder Woman again. Like that first movie, like that again, like Wonder Woman is a name everybody knew, but like all of a sudden you saw those toys coming off the shelves, you saw costumes going up. That changed. That was an iconic role on screen, and it trickled down through comics and all over new Wonder Woman series, Black and Gold, and who's doing this and who's that. You're just like, you know what I mean? And so, right now I don't think people have that same level of interest. So this one, the price might be hurt by that on this one a little bit.
Yeah, this one could be tough. And this again is another one that I don't know, the Sensation ones, the Batman ones, the Superman ones, they keep showing up. Just in terms of these auctions, like it's like it always feels like there's one copy of them in it, and I wonder if that kind of hurts sort of the luster for some people. All right, this one is interesting to me because it's the signed copy. You got a Silver Surfer 1 with a Stan Lee signature, 9/8 signature. Not the worst Stan Lee I've ever seen. I mean. Oh. At least Stan Lee didn't sign over Surfer's face, which I wouldn't put it past him to do something like that. This one sitting pretty low at 22,000. I bring up this one because a 9/8 sold earlier this year for 132. 9/8 unsigned, and there's 10 of them on the census. This is the only 9/8 that is signed. So, kind of gets into that whole like, do you think signed books actually hurt value sometimes?
It depends who you ask, right? And that's all that matters. Like the people that have the money to buy this book, if they're not interested in the signature, that's going to hurt the value. I mean, like when you brought this book up, I was like, oh my God, I want this in my collection. Like that, like this is honestly, out of everything we've seen, like obviously I'd rather have some of those other books just for monetary value. But like to me, this is the coolest thing, right? Because Silver Surfer is like my second favorite character. And to have a Stan Lee signature on a 9/8 of this book, like it's not even his first appearance. Awesome cover though. This was that run of that big premiere issue badge. This is such a cool book. Like it's such a conversation piece. Yeah, it's a conversation piece. It seems like it's going to go for a steal. But again, this one may just be floating under the radar right now because of how much heat is sitting on top of it.
That's true.
Once that gets kind of weeded out, this book might, in the last like 15 minutes, like jump majorly because Stan Lee's signature still matters. It does. It does. I don't care what anybody says. Like, oh, they were just like he was like Weekend at Bernie's at the end, right? Where he's just like his hands just going. He doesn't even know what he's doing. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. So not a Weekend at Bernie's fan either. Yeah.
So, I mean, it would have been awesome if that signature was just like 3 inches to the right. It would have been amazing. It would have been perfect placement. But, his signature still matters. I don't want to say that. His signature still matters to a good portion of the community. For sure. Yeah.
And of course, shout out to Ryan. I mean, you can't trust the pre-live auction prices. They jump tremendously, but it can sometimes be a bit of a vibe check. As like this one's already, people are letting it be known that they're in it to win it versus some of the other ones, like you said, maybe this one right now, just it's getting attention pulled away.
Yeah.
All right, two more books here to talk about that I thought were interesting. Strange Tales 110, 9.6 copy. Again, another top of census for, the Marvel Silver blue chips, if you want to call it this, that. 7 of these are 9.6. Surprising that there's not actually a 9.8 of this. Maybe that'll change one day. But I mean,
probably 9.9 actually.
Yeah, it could be a 9.9 soon. I mean, look, I mean,
this
9.9
is a 9.8 candidate for sure.
Right there. Cracking press for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that this book, where it sits at 93, is already going to set the record for this book. I mean, the last sale for the 9.6 was 66, so it's already going to be a record price for this book. But I don't know. Strange Tales 110 is a funny book to me. It feels like it's really cheap now. You see some of those lower grade sales. I mean, you can get a 3.0 for like $1,000. I mean, that was not the case a while back.
Yeah, and that wasn't even COVID, to be honest with you. Like, this was just a sought after book that didn't come up super often. And again, I keep going back to the movies, and some people hate that, but I don't care what you. I mean, I think, and I meant to say this earlier, I think people are waiting for like the whiteboard and the math to start coming because of the two of us on the channel together right now, but it hasn't yet. So I want to keep that streak going, but you have to look at the numbers. Like that's what drives a lot of these things. And this book was sought after prior to 2021, and the end of 2020 because of, I think, the scarcity. Not a lot of people cared about Doctor Strange. I had a cult following. And then the movie hit, and it was so good. And you started seeing more, But this was a very pricey book even before COVID. So a little surprised. I haven't checked on this book. So when you scroll down, I was kind of learning as I was watching, and I was like, wow, this has really fallen.
Yeah, you can say, I mean, look here, 3.0, 30-day, 1,300. So
I mean,
it's so affordable.
My guess in 2020, like that sold for $2,000. Like,
yeah, look at that, a 3,000, 4,000 top.
Yeah.
That's insane, right?
Yikes. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a great book. I mean, I think this is like one of those books that you have in your collection that like a lot of people won't know, but the people that know, they're like, that's such a cool thing to have in your collection. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of those books.
Absolutely. And then last book, just to highlight another Marvel blue chip right here. Tales of Suspense 39, First Iron Man. I think this is, the top of census, the only copy, 9.8. I mean, it's so crazy how many top of census of these Marvel keys are in this when you already have an Action 1. That's basically the top. And this one right here, 9.8 white pages now. 9.8 is generous, I think, with this one. If I'm being fully transparent, I mean, you got a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call that some tan stuff. This corner looks like it's got some stuff. I got some weird staple things going on.
I'm okay with the staples. I think this one had one tick at the bottom.
There's a tick right here. Yeah. This corner is, I mean, it depends on how.
This isn't as egregious as some of the other ones.
Yeah. Doesn't quite have the double quotes here.
Yeah. And that's okay. I wouldn't, to me, that is well within allowability. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this is, again, a rare book. And it's weird because Iron Man, again, prior to the MCU, and I know there's Iron Man fans out there, but this was a C-list character for a big chunk of, he had his moments for sure, right? But this was, and Tales of Suspense was, again, a comic series that wasn't majorly collected when it came out.
Yeah.
Which is why the price of this book is so high compared to some other keys. Well, major first appearances. It's not a super hard, like it's not a black cover where you're like, oh, it's hard to get in a high. It's just the rarity, I think, of it. This is a very cool book. It's not I mean, how many of you have held this book in your hand? I would say not a lot, right? This is a rarer book. It's on the rare side, and I think this deserves I think the 500 mark. I think this hits 1 million. I do.
Yeah.
I think it hits $1 million.
I mean, it's definitely. I remember the one time we had a show, we were talking about like the $1 million clubs and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, all right, this is that chance for this book to hit the million. I didn't know this. Ryan says that in the chat here. It sold for $2 million in a private sale on Comic Link in September. I mean,
there you go.
$2 million sounds like an outrageous price to pay for this book.
September. Okay. So that was 2023. I mean, the high end market was, it's still flat. It's still flying. It's got no, I don't think 2 million is outlandish for this book.
Yeah. I don't think
because of the rarity.
Yeah. I don't think 2 million's out of, or I would say, I don't think $1 million is out of the question for this one. Cause I think in the last Platinum session, there were books like Justice League, or the first Justice League showcase, whatever, I forget, went to like 900K. And I think Showcase 4, The Flash, went to like 900K. Showcase 4 might be a more desirable book, but we're talking about character popularity. Maybe you know what? Maybe it's going to be a 900K book or something around there.
What was the highest sale of a 9.6? I guess.
Let's see if I can find
278.
one. Yeah, let me see if it's Go Collect will tell us. It looks like 270s and 260s.
Right, and again, that's because of who wants. Right, like you have to have the interest. Like it could be rare, it could be a great character. It could be under collected, but somebody still has to want it, right?
Totally.
Rarity does not always equal value. So clearly it does. I mean, there's some, but we're talking about that next level of value. So
yeah.
I still think it hits $1 million because top census 9.8, Tales of Suspense. This is like one of those books when you're flipping through a collection, you just hope is there. Like,
oh man,
yeah. Because you could always find like 37, 38 and 40 and 40, maybe not 40, but like 41, 42. Like you find those books, Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I said that it was the last two, but I forgot to pull this one up, and I did want to talk about this last one because we're talking about all the movie stuff. You got this Avengers one, 9.6. It is the top of census, tied with 5 other copies. What's interesting about this book is that this one has not been a good investment.
Interest is just
it's
low.
gone down. Yeah, interest has gone down. It's sad for me. It's one of my favorite books. I really do like it. It's that 117, maybe, again, pre-bid, we don't know. But yeah, I mean, 274 back in when the first Avengers movie came out, and then 215 sometime after that, and then 194. And
well, that's what I mean. Like, can you hit that too? Like logic tells you that it won't hit that number.
Yeah.
Right. That 270. So, 100 and I don't know, 125, 140.
Yeah.
I think that's still a solid price. A lot of ticks for 9.6.
Yeah. It's got a couple. It's definitely on I'd say the lower end of the 9.6.
Yeah. The 9.2-ish end of the 9.6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about
pretty
right.
much. Pretty much. But, just kind of cool to see, what some of these books end up selling for. It'll be interesting if we're going to get some record prices. I'm sure we will with some of them. We'll get some big sales, and we'll be there to talk about it.
It's going to be interesting. I'd be very curious to see, like you said, with all of the books just on top of each other, like what gets hurt, where's the trickle down? Because listen, you got to remember, like the people bidding on this, like some of them are maybe bidding, maybe not in their right mind. Maybe they're like a little bit of a gambler, right? Like, and when you lose an auction, right? And we've all been down this road. It can just kind of really anger you, and you may rage bid on something else. Cause I've done that.
Yeah.
Right. Like 2 books that I've had an eye on, and I'm like, I'm not fucking losing. Sorry, I cursed. I'm not losing this second bid. Like I am not losing this second bid.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if some of these books wind up higher than we thought. I think you're going to get both. I think you're going to get some books that wind up lower, but then I think you're going to get some shockers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the FOMO, even at that scale, can set in for people who are in it. They're bidding, they're invested, and I don't know, when the hype's there. I think it'll be fun to see what they all go for.
This is going to be good. Yeah, this is going to be a good one to cover afterwards in a couple of days. So
yeah. Well, I think, we've been going for 90 minutes, kind of covered all the good topics. Matt, one half the Pressable Defects, wanted to say thanks again for hopping on the channel. It's always good to talk to you. Always interesting stuff, going on in the comic book market. Maybe you can let the people know, once again, what you got going on, where they can find you. All your stuff is in the description, but why don't you give the people some last words here?
Yeah, we talked about King Con a couple of times, so we won't do that again. But all the links for that, buying the tickets, and then our stream in the description below. But yeah, our channel down there, if you could give us a sub, that'd be great. Right now we do Tuesdays, 5 p.m. videos, and then we do a live show every other Wednesday. It's me and Jay, me and DeButcher 105. So, it's we try to keep up with as much as we can, but life gets in the way sometimes. This is like a lot of us have regular jobs, so we try to do as much as you can to stay connected to you guys and bring different types of videos. We do a lot of similar stuff to Swaggle. We do some new comic book day stuff. We do some spec stuff. But as long as it has to do with comics, we're talking about it. So come and hang out. It's always a good time over on our chats. I would say they're not for everybody.
They're definitely for everyone. You guys will definitely enjoy it. It's
entertaining. You can't take that away. You could say a lot of things about us, but we are, I would say, at least what people tell us, we are fairly entertaining.
It's like it's like you get the info you get on my channel, but you get it on like HBO. So it's like TVMA. It's actually better. TVMA, you guys are gonna like it. Yeah. All right. Well, remember, guys. Remember to check out Pressable Defects. Check out the links in the description. Check out King Kong. If you're in the Northeast area, definitely highly recommend. Once again, check out Sanity, my Kickstarter, if you guys are interested in a comic book I wrote. Worked super hard on it. Hopefully, you guys, check it out, and you can find that in the description and consider supporting. I'd appreciate it. And then the last little thing, I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's been a lot of talk in the community about a certain, mental health awareness, someone taking his life. I put a post here in the community page on my YouTube. I just want to say to everybody out there, if you're, you're going through some stuff, there's people out there, they're thinking about you. There's help out there. Make sure you all take care of yourselves. Because things can get tough. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. And just to echo that, it's, check in on your friends, especially your guy friends, because we tend to keep everything in, let it bottle up. I've had several people close to me, leave this world early. Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper because they're not going to just come to you. So checking on your friends, checking on your guy friends. It's, it doesn't take much to do, and if you're going through something, reach out to any one of us as well. We had a lot of people that have done that in the past, and we're happy to just shoot the shit whenever. So
100%. Well, thanks again, everyone in the chat, for hanging. Thanks again, Matt, for joining, and we will see you all in the next stream. Later.